Hey, what's happening? Trader Tim from EminiMind here. It's Monday, the 9th of September. Just kind of kicking off the week with a little market analysis video. Talk about the ES here. A couple of trades that I wanted to highlight, but more importantly, just kind of where uh, where we're at on the bigger picture to kind of get us situated for the week and what kind of direction we'll be taking some of these trades. Um, from a daily perspective, we've come down to the 50% retracement from the lows in August, 54.0750, and getting a little bit of a bounce here, but I'll be interested in to see how the market reacts at the short up at 55.40. Interesting, the SPY has, its high over here has been closer to the July high, closer to a double top, whereas the ES made a little bit lower high relative to that all-time high. So we'll see what happens in the next couple of days. We do have the Fed meeting coming up here. It's going to be in a week from Wednesday, so that'll be a big one as far as accelerating or which direction the market's going to accelerate into. So a little bit of a rise in volatility, but not much. Still back down to 20s. What's really important when we're going, if we go to a smaller time frame, we're talking about day trading. We want to make sure that we you know if you get these really big spikes in volatility and you're going to trade through that, like let's say we get a spike up to 30 or 35 one day when we get a bigger sell-off drop. It's okay to trade through that, but you might want to double your stop and double your target so that you can account for the increased volatility. That will keep your risk the same per trade. And a couple of things that I wanted to highlight here. If we, from a gap perspective, we really don't have a lot of gaps. When we came up to this consolidation up here, we were so close to all-time highs, but we didn't have a lot of, we had a lot of overlap in the various days. And so once we broke that consolidation, that's kind of when, from a technical perspective, the bottom falls out when you break a consolidation level like that and we've run down, like I said, to the 50% retracement here. The other thing I wanted to point out, I put some lines on the chart here. If I go to a weekly chart, you can see it's a, whoops, the default here. So I've got 10%, 15, 20, 25% decline from highs, just to kind of give us an idea of where those price levels are. So the 10% pullback would be at the prior swing low. So that's going to be the first big key level, about 51.43. So we'll be watching that if we start to sell off and roll over. The larger trend line wise, that's all the way down here, which would, I guess, depending on the time, could be up at the 15%, somewhere around like 4,800 as far as that shallower trend line. The steeper trend line that we've been hugging has broke, and now we're kind of sort of on the back side of the trend line. Even though we had the consolidation, we're underneath it here. So we'll see what we get in the next couple of days. But I just want to highlight a couple of trades and some things you can be thinking about this week. So this morning there was a, pull up my log here, 1 minute, 6:39, the little inverted hammer here. I took this short. We had gapped up and there wasn't really much of a continued up move, kind of flattening out. So I took this little inverted hammer short, and then when we got this hammer here, I just put my stop above that hammer and just got out for like a point profit. And then 7-11, that was this big inverted hammer up here. I like this one because it kind of like poked above everything else. Got an initial drop and then kind of slowly rose and then got the bigger sell off. And in this one, I could have been a little more conservative with my stop and just trailed swing highs. But when we came down to this, we were kind of right at the 21 EMA with this doji here. I ended up putting my stop above that candle. So that was good for like 4.5 points. Seeing that at the time the trend was healthily or was kind of steadily up. I can grab that. Um, that's why I put my stop, kind of came in and tightened it a little bit tighter. And a lot of times on Monday, I tend to be a little bit more conservative and, or I guess you could say aggressive with my stop just to kind of get the week rolling. But one thing I wanted to mention is when we're up in this, like, oh, I would say upper teens and certainly into the 20s, um, you can you can go about taking a profit, like setting a 5 point profit, let's say, on some of these high low bar, low high bar trades, because these candles are going to be a lot bigger, and you can kind of get a quicker profit locked in most situations if you want to use a fixed target like that. I know for some people that's they just like to trade that way a little bit better versus trailing your stop down, especially if you get a quick reaction using a 5 or even a 4 point target, can be a good way to go. And that way, if you're trailing your stop, like if we go back to last week on, I think it was Wednesday, yeah, the 4th. Um, there were a handful of little trades off the open, and you get the little hammer, and then you get a spike, and then you get an invert hammer, a little bit of a drift down, and these drifts here are like 7, 8, 9, 10 points, and so just by putting a 5 point target out there, if you don't want to just trail your stop behind each candle, when the market's really clean, trailing your stop like that, that's a great way to go. It's what I've done for years and years and years. But sometimes you can get a initial spike or not an initial spike, and it kind of stair steps its way up. And just by setting that profit target, you can kind of clip out at the profit target, and then if it ends up coming back down and your stop might be way down lower, you've taken that profit on the trade already. So you still want to pay attention to like good reward to risk, and certainly be tightening your stop kind of off that initial candle if you're going to be using a smaller profit target. You don't want to be sitting there with a lot of trades having 3 or 4 point stop outs and then having trades only making 4 or 5 points, because even if you're up in a 60% or even 70% win rate, that can erode really quickly. But if you're moving your stop up and you have a fixed target like that of, let's just say, 5 points, since volatilities should remain a little bit higher, that can be a good way to go to kind of get a smaller quick win. And then more so what it does is allows you to uh, take a few more trades with the hope that you can get some quicker, some shorter trades that can then add up. So it's like you take a couple smaller winners and you have 3 or 4 trades versus only 1 or 2 trades. You can kind of end up in some cases at the same outcome on the day, or even on some days where you're getting like a move to the top of the range and then move to the bottom of the range. You can take 3 or 4 trades, and if you took 5 points on each trade, that it can start to add up pretty quick. So with the ability to scale and trade um, many contracts at once, or if you're copy trading multiple accounts, that those numbers can really add up. So just something to think about, and it doesn't work so well when volatility is really low. That's when the trailing the swing lows, trailing each candle, just kind of giving the market some room, especially the trailing swing lows. When volatility is really low, you get tiny little pullbacks, and it just takes a lot longer for the range to develop and to widen. But if we go, lastly back to the daily chart, we can see our, just the average ranges on the day have become a lot bigger than they were, back in here from the summer, June, July, where, a 30-point range would be fairly on the large side. Maybe you get an occasional 50-point day, but then you come over here and it's like a lot more days that are 90 points, 150 points, 85 points, and so the ranges widen, and that gives you a lot more opportunity to kind of eke out some day trades. So, anywho, we'll be doing a live trading session tomorrow. If you want to tune in, eminimind.com/VIP. Hope you have a great week, and I will talk to you all soon.